Hey everybody, welcome back. Where today I have a PowerPoint presentation for you guys. I know it's been a minute since I did one of these, and if you're a newer subscriber, maybe you don't know about them, but video essays are a thing on the internet, and I look at video essays and I go, wow, that's just a PowerPoint presentation with extra steps. So I've made a PowerPoint presentation for you guys today about entry hazards. And the reason for this is because I think Gen 9 is the generation that makes entry hazards good and like all over the place in VGC. And that's basically what I'm going to explain today. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. What is an entry hazard? If you only play VGC, you might not even know. Basically, entry hazards are a number of different field effects that affect Pokemon when they switch into battle. There's a lot of different kinds of entry hazards. We will get into that in a second. But the one thing that they all two things they all have in common is they affect the Pokemon when they enter the battle, and they can all be removed by the moves Defog and Rapid Spin. Defog will remove it from both sides of the field, and Rapid Spin will only move it from the user's side of the field. Types of entry hazards. So there are 5 types of entry hazards. You probably don't see many of these very often if you play VGC. If you play singles, you've probably seen 4 of them often, and not the last one. Nobody knows about Sharp Steel, but we'll get there in a second. So first up, we have Pointed Stones. This is most commonly set by the move Stealth Rock. Next up, we have Spikes. That is most commonly set by the move called Spikes. We have Poison Spikes, which is set by the move called Toxic Spikes. Sticky Web, and Sharp Steel. The only move that says Sharp Steel is Gmax Steel Surge, which no longer exists, so it is not really a an entry hazard that exists in the game right now. First up, let's talk about Pointed Stones. Pointed Stones do damage to a Pokemon when they enter the battle based on that Pokemon's typing. Basically, it depends on how weak to rock you are. So if you have a 4 times rock resistance, you're going to take 3.125% of your health. If you have just a 1 times resistance to rock, you're going to take 6.25% of your health. Anything that's neutral to rock is going to take 12.5%. Anything that is weak to rock will take a quarter of their HP, or 25%. And anything that is 4 times weak to rock, think about your things like Volcarona and Charizard, they take a whopping half of their health from Stealth Rock. This can be really, really good if there are a lot of Pokemon in the format that are weak to Stealth Rocks. I know there was a point in time where people were running Stealth Rock Landorus to help deal with Incineroar, because Incineroar takes a quarter of its health every time it enters the battle if you have Stealth Rocks up. Spikes! So Spikes, similar to Stealth Rocks, they do damage to a Pokemon whenever they enter the battle, and it is dependent on how many layers of Spikes have been set up. You can set up a total of 3 layers of Spikes. If there's 1 layer of Spikes, you do 1/8 of the HP. If there's 2 layers of Spikes, you do 1/6 of the HP. And if there are 3 layers of Spikes, you do a quarter of their HP, 25%. And any Pokemon that are not touching the ground are immune. So Pokemon with Levitate, Flying type Pokemon, things, it's kind of hard to say like Magnet Rise, but technically things that have used like Magnet Rise, stuff like that, will also be immune to Spikes. They just won't take damage from them. Poison Spikes. So what Poison Spikes do is they poison a Pokemon that has entered the battle based on the number of layers of Poison Spikes that are set up on the field. Maximum of 2 layers. 1 layer just does regular poison, 1/8 of damage every single turn. 2 layers will inflict Toxic Poison, which is the same status condition that is inflicted by the move Toxic. Badly Poison is what it's actually called in the game. So it starts at 1/16 damage, which is less than regular poison, but then that damage increases by 1/16 for each turn that Pokemon has been on the field. So once you've been on the field for 5 turns, you will be taking 5/16 of your health at the end of the turn. Pokemon that aren't touching the ground are immune to Poison Spikes, and then they also have an additional way to be removed. If you have a Poison type Pokemon on your team and you switch it in, those Poison Spikes just kind of go away. Your Poison Pokemon absorbs them. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is for that, other than balancing. I don't know, it just feels weird that the Poison Pokemon comes in and is just num 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 num. I don't get it, but maybe somebody out there can explain it to me. Next up, we have Sticky Web. This is one of the easiest ones because it has the least kind of things going on here. Basically, you can set one layer of sticky webs. Any Pokemon that enters the field will have their speed lowered by 1 stage. That's it. And if you're not touching the ground, you are immune to sticky web. So again, things with levitate, flying type Pokemon, things with like magnet rise and stuff like that will not take a speed drop when they enter the field. Sticky web's kind of, I don't know. I feel like sticky web could be good, but it's like so weird to like set it up because it's only 1 stage. If it was like halved, if it was 2 stages, I think sticky web would be great, but it's only 1 stage. The last entry hazard, well, I took a really bad picture, is Sharp Steel. It's pointed stones like Stealth Rock, but it's Steel type. It literally works exactly the same. So it's based on if you're weak to Steel or not. The 4 times weakness, you'll take 50% of your health, and then 25%, and then so on and so forth. The only move that's able to set this up is G-Max Steel Surge, which is the G-Max move of Gigantamax Caparaja. So this move is no longer available. So do with that information what you will. It basically doesn't exist. I did try to make a team using G-Max Caparaja just so I could like set ridiculous amounts of entry hazards, and it's rough. It's rough. It didn't work very well. Caparaja's not great, but you know, we tried our best. So, are entry hazards good? Kind of depends on what format we're talking about. So in 6v6, like Smogon singles, entry hazards are really good. The battles take a long time. There's a ton of switching. Sometimes switching is free, and the only way to punish switching is to have those entry hazards up. Switching is a lot more free in singles than it is in VGC. And the battles are 6v6, so there are 5 Pokemon they can switch between at any given time. There's a lot more switching. It's a lot easier to position in singles. So there are a lot more positioning takes place. VGC. It's traditionally, entry hazards are not good in VGC. Every once in a while you do see them, like when people were running the Stealth Rock Landorus Therian. And right now with Glimmora, but we'll talk about Glimmora in a second. The battles in VGC are usually pretty short. They usually don't last more than like 8 to like 15 turns, which is like your general like VGC battle, which is compared to singles battles that go on for, you know, like 30, 40 plus turns. It's a lot different. Well, there are some teams that switch a lot. Switching is a lot easier to punish, so it's a lot more risky. And it's a lot easier for a VGC team to go, oh, well, they have entry hazards, then I'm just not going to switch. And you can make that work for you. And the battles are only 4v4, so there are less Pokemon to switch around in general, which makes entry hazards also not super good. So why are we here? I'm a VGC content creator, right? And I just told you entry hazards are bad in VGC. Why are we here? That's easy. We have new moves and new abilities that set entry hazards, and we need to talk about them. Because I think they're going to make entry hazards, maybe not like good in VGC where you should go out of your way to set them up, but they're going to make entry hazards common in VGC, and that's going to make entry hazards good. These 3 Pokemon right here are the saviors of entry hazards in VGC. First up, we have Kleavor with the new move, Stone Axe. We have Hisuian Samurott with the new move, Ceaseless Edge. And we have Glimmora with its new ability, Toxic Debris. I told you we'd get into Glimmora. It's actually the last Pokemon we're going to talk about, but that's for good reason. That's for good reason. We'll get there when we get there, I promise. Alright, so first up we have Kleavor. I want to talk about Kleavor's stats and its whole deal. It has the Bug Rock typing. Its 3 abilities are Swarm, Sheer Force, and Sharpness. Swarm is kind of like Torrent and all that kind of stuff. When you're at like, I think it's like 25% or less HP, you get a boost to your Bug type moves. Sheer Force, it removes the additional effects of moves to give them a boost. And then Sharpness, all cutting type moves get a 50% boost in damage. That's going to be important in a second. We have pretty good stats here. 130 is a massive attack stat. The defenses are actually pretty decent. The HP stat could be higher, but like it's not bad. And the speed is 85. And you might be thinking like 85 is a slow speed stat. It kind of is, but we have things like Talon, Choice Scarf, stuff like that. And there are like really fast Pokemon in the format, but on the whole, the format is not super speed crept right now. So if Kleavor gets put into the game pretty early on, it has a pretty decent speed stat to do what it needs to do. Let's talk about Kleavor's signature move, Stone Axe. It is a 65 base power rock type damaging move. It sets up pointed stones, your stealth rocks, when you click it. And it's boosted by the Sharpness ability, so it is a cutting type move. So this is basically when Kleavor clicks it, because Sharpness is the best ability that Kleavor has. When Kleavor clicks this move, it's basically like a base 92 rock type move that sets up Stealth Rock, and that's kind of great, honestly. There are a lot of Pokemon that are weak to rock. Even just like thinking about like past VGC formats, like Incineroar is super weak to rock. Like right now we have Iron Bundle is weak to rock. We have, I'm just having a hard time. My mind is blank right now. Arcanine is weak to rock. There are a lot of really common Pokemon in the format that don't want to take this damage from Stealth Rock. So when Kleavor enters the meta with its Bug Rock typing, so it gets Stab on Stone Axe, it gets boosted by Sharpness, it hits you with it. You don't want to take that damage already, and now there's Stealth Rock, and if you try to switch out, you're gonna get Stealth Rocked. It's kind of like if you switch out so something else has to eat the Stone Axe, then when that Pokemon that was weak to Rock comes back in, it's gonna have to eat the Stealth Rock, and that's super cool. I really think that Kleavor is gonna do some stuff, hopefully. Next Pokemon here, we have Hisuian Samurott. It has the Water Dark typing, which is a really good defensive typing. Its abilities are Torrent and Sharpness. Torrent works the same way as Swarm. When you're below 25%, you get a boost. I think it's 25%. I might be wrong. And then Sharpness, 50% boost in damage to the cutting moves. These stats are really good. It's pretty bulky with 90 HP, 108 attacks, not as high as Kleavor, but it's pretty high. 80 defense, 100 special attack, 65 special defense, 85 speed. But this is a pretty bulky Pokemon. This Pokemon pretty much single-handedly beats Armarouge and Didi, assuming they're not running like Energy Ball or something, because they really can't do a whole lot of damage to you. So right there, it already has a niche that it can fill when it comes into the meta. And on top of that, it has a new signature move called Ceaseless Edge. And Ceaseless Edge is a 65 base power damaging Dark type move. And it sets 1 layer of spikes every time that you click it. So if you attack with Ceaseless Edge 3 times, you get spikes for free. It's like a buy 3 get 1 free deal or something like that. You get completely set up with your spikes. And once again, that is a 1/4 damage to every Pokemon when they switch in. It's 25%. That is not an insignificant amount of damage. That's like, it's really like, it breaks, Sashes, it breaks like Pokemon who like just barely live, they switch out, they come back in, oh, well now they're dead. It's like G-Max Vocalith kind of stuff, where like stuff barely lives and then just kind of dies anyway. So again, when Hisuian Samurott uses this move with its ability Sharpness, this is basically a 92 base power Dark move, so like stronger than Kowtow Cleave, stronger than Night Slash. It's like a really strong physical Dark type move. And it sets up spikes for free. Very, very good stuff going on here. I really think Hisuian Samurott has a shot in the format. It has a really good typing for the stuff that we want to deal with right now. I mean, yes, it is kind of weak to Iron Hands, but that's, I mean, really like Iron Hands and Fluttermane are it, but I don't know. I feel like you could probably EV it. It's bulky enough to take a Moonblast, and then you knock out the Fluttermane in return. So yeah, that's free spikes. The last Pokemon here we're going to talk about is Glimmora. And if you don't know what Glimmora does, you haven't been paying attention, because it's been in a lot of tournaments recently. It's been catching a lot of hype. It has Rock Poison typing. Its abilities are Toxic Debris and Corrosion. It has a base 86 speed stat, which is one more than the last 2 Pokemon, but it's very, very similar. 130 base special attack, massive. Its bulk's not bad. It's not the bulkiest Pokemon. Usually you run like Speed, and you run like a Choice Specs, and you run Tailwind. So like you set Tailwind, and you just absolutely destroy things with Glimmora's stab moves. Nothing wants to take a Power Gem. Nothing wants to take the Sludge Bomb. It gets Dazzling Gleam. It's a pretty good mon. Glimmora's new ability is called Toxic Debris. And if you don't know what Toxic Debris does, every time you get hit by a physical move, you set 1 layer of Poison Spikes on the opposing side of the field. It is passive Poison Spikes. You don't even have to attack. You can switch Glimmora into an attack and set up Poison Spikes for free. So you take 2 hits, and you basically get max. You basically are getting Toxin Poison on all of your opponent's Pokemon for free. It's pretty great, and I mean, really, it's like the passive Toxic Spikes. Like you're not. It's such a big bonus. It's almost the reason to use Glimmora. Obviously, the Specs Glimmora does tons and tons and tons of damage, and that's really the reason that people are using it. But the free Toxic Spikes helps you deal with so many things like Dondozo. It combos really good into Garganacl. For all these reasons, Glimmora has just been a really, really good Pokemon in the format so far. So what? So what do we have with these new abilities? They introduce new attacks and abilities all the time, right? Like why? Well, First of all, at the most recent tournament, this is not the reason I made this video. I was already working on this PowerPoint, and I had to stop for a couple of days, and OCIC happened. Alex Underhill got 9th place, 200 CP, $750. That is not an insignificant amount of money. They used Glimmora. There's a Glimmora right there. And like I said, Toxic Spikes was probably not the end-all be-all of this team, but all of these Pokemon hit so hard that the little bit of extra damage that you can get from having Toxic Spikes for free is nuts. Like, these Pokemon probably don't quite KO things, and then all of a sudden, because you're getting extra poison damage, you're KOing things. Entry hazards are really only bad in VGC because it's not worth the effort you have to do. It's not worth clicking that move and doing basically nothing for a turn. These new moves and abilities make setting up entry hazards the bonus instead of the end goal. But it's like a bonus that can be the end goal, if that makes sense. It's like G-Max Vocalith. Like, obviously Colossal was super good because of G-Max Vocalith, but Colossal was good because its ability just comboed really well into Dynamax. If it didn't have G-Max Vocalith, it probably still would have been good. G-Max Vocalith is the bonus of using Colossal. But because you have a bonus and it's such a huge bonus, it made Colossal even better. And this is kind of what these new moves are going to do for entry hazards. Like I said, Glimmora is already topping tournaments. This is not the only thing. There was another one in top 16, another Glimmora. It was on some of the teams that were in Orlando. It was on some of the teams that were in San Diego. This is a Pokemon that people are starting to figure out how to use, and I think that the same thing is going to happen with Hisuian Samurai and Kleavor, and we just have to wait until we're allowed to use them. Conclusion. Entry hazards. I wouldn't say they're outright bad, but they're not the best that they could be right now, right? Like, obviously, it's a lot of effort to set them up, and like in singles, you set up all your entry hazards with like your first Pokemon, and now they're just there for the rest of the game, and people actually run like Rapid Spin and Defog to get rid of them. It's like an important part of the meta. I don't know if we'll get to that point in VGC. I don't know if people are going to start running Rapid Spin and Defog, although Rapid Spin did get buffed last generation to boost your speed stat, so that could be really good, and I want to say oh yeah, Glimmora's new signature attack, Mortal Spin, also removes entry hazards. So something to keep in mind. This is a Pokemon that can set most of the entry hazards and also remove entry hazards. Very, very neat. But Rapid Spin does increase your speed stat, and that could be really good. I'm not sure if Glimmora learns Rapid Spin. It probably does. But basically what I'm trying to say is that when we have all of these Pokemon in the format, it's going to be a lot more free to set up entry hazards. And what that's going to do is it might not make entry hazards like good, not like something you're specifically going for, but it's going to make entry hazards a lot more common. And in that way, it's going to make them good, because if something is all over the place in the meta, that usually means that it's good, or it's at least something you need to keep in mind. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Entry hazards are probably going to be really good in VGC whenever we get all the Hisuian Pokemon. Already, Toxic Spikes are showing up. I'm pretty sure there was a Meowscarada Garganacl team where people were manually setting up Toxic Spikes with Meowscarada. We're already like almost there. We're on the cusp of it. And getting Kleavor and Hisuian Samurai I think is going to push it over the edge. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you watched all the way through here, please be sure to subscribe. It's going to be like a 20+ minute video. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Go ahead, leave me a like if you liked the video. Leave me a comment. What do you think about entry hazards? Do you think that these Pokemon are going to make a difference in entry hazards, or do you think that I am blowing smoke out of my behind? Let me know down in the comments. With that, everybody, my name is Andrew, and I will catch you guys next time.